The Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, has called for collaboration between state oil corporations of Africa and Caribbean countries to ensure that both regions are not held hostage by crises such as the Russia-Ukraine war or the geopolitical tensions, Taiwan, China, so on and so forth. The Prime Minister was speaking to collaborations and de-risking that Africa and the Caribbean need in the field of the ever-important energy. In the meantime, the president of the African Export-Import Bank, Professor Benedict Orama, says Africa's oil and gas producers have necessary experience and expertise, that's very important, that the Caribbean states need. Let's take a listen.
I think that we are very clear that the opportunity for us to collaborate is now imperative. Let me put it another way. I think it was President Kagame who said that he would not believe that 1.3 billion people can be held hostage to a country that has, 43 million people with respect to the provision of grain and the provision of fertilizers. I say similarly that I do not believe that the region of the African region or the Caribbean region, both of whom are rich in energy resources, ought to be held hostage. What does this mean? That apart from the international arrangements we have with multinational corporations, many of us have state oil companies, and we need to start to see where the opportunities for partnership are with those state oil companies. We also need to see how we can improve the level of local ownership participation to ensure that where we do need support, we get it from those who have that capacity. Barbados this week in Houston, for example, would have announced that we will open a bid round for blocks on the 1st of December of this year. We've already awarded 2 blocks. There were 3, but 2 effectively. But we have a state oil company too, but we don't have a long and deep tradition in oil and gas. Trinidad does, Nigeria does. There are other countries in Africa that are equally emerging as major players globally. How do we work together through the provision of technical assistance, financial support and investment to be able to make these things happen? And I think that the example of what happened in Ukraine shows us that we cannot rely on others to guarantee our stability and our security going forward. And I therefore hope that this will be another area in which that partnership can happen. And I say another because yesterday I mentioned to you the Africa Medical Supplies Platform. In the midst of the pandemic, when we couldn't get PPEs, when in those days we thought we needed ventilators, and we couldn't get equally the conversations to have access to vaccines. It was the collaboration with the Africa Medical Supplies Platform, undergirded by the financing of the Afreximbank, that made a difference to our people. Now, I'm aware that there is a similar platform, for example, for fertilizer and grain. And while our needs may not be as acute with respect to grain, our farmers have seen fertilizer costs go way through the roof. Our problem is that our scale is just simply not there. And we therefore may have to look to work collaboratively outside of CARICOM with others in the Caribbean, be it Cuba, be it the Dominican Republic, be it northern Brazil, be it Venezuela, in order to ensure that in working with Africa, that we can ensure that our prices, the prices at which our farmers access the fertilizer, are far, far more affordable than they are as a result of this war. And I can go further with respect to common procurement platforms for water. The colonizers put down water mains in all of our countries 120 years ago. And almost every one of our countries is facing a severe problem with non-revenue water. But if we were to pool resources in terms of the procurement such that we can get better prices, the fact that Barbados has less than 300,000 people and Nigeria is what, near 300 million, that you will not therefore see a disparity in the unit pricing because we're coming together to work together to be able to access it in the same way that we did with the Africa Medical Supplies platform. I'm sure that there are other opportunities in the energy sector as well, but I went broader than energy to just show you that what matters is not so much the subject area, but the attitude and approach, one, for collaboration, and two, for de-risking, that we come now to today's moment to be able to deal with. And that is the importance of this inaugural African Caribbean Trade Forum, because it allows us to see how we can work together to unlock those very difficult issues that have only been made worse, regrettably, by matters beyond our control.
I think that the energy sector, especially oil and gas, is where this partnership we are building will be most impactful in helping the Caribbean region realize the potentials they have. Africa has built the experience, the expertise in oil and gas. You have it in Nigeria, you have it in Egypt, you have in South Africa, you have to some extent in other countries. Sure. But Egypt and Nigeria, I think, have quite substantial capacities in oil services and so on. And because the sector is capital intensive, it needs capital, it needs expertise on how to structure the financing. And again, with humility, I can say that today, Afreximbank is the largest oil and gas financing entity on the continent. And the expertise goes all through the value chain, from upstream to midstream to downstream, all the structures you have, and advisory. But because of the need that is arising in Africa, because many of the banks that used to finance along with us have all withdrawn because of because they were told to stop financing Africa's oil and gas. So most of that financing has fallen on us. So we now collaborated with the Africa Petroleum Producers Organization to create Africa Energy Bank that will be focused on this. Because Africa is in a bit of a situation, COP27 will be discussing this. The idea that Africa should just all of a sudden cut off financing oil and gas and so on is like saying, Africa, to promote the idea of decarbonization for the graveyard. Because without it, we are not going to be able to develop. To the extent whereby we will then gradually move away from fossil fuel. And I'm sure that will be the same question that the Caribbean will be facing. But the good thing is that Afreximbank has the capacity, has the expertise to support the kind of activities the private sector will be doing, as Dr. Asfor mentioned, to help develop any opportunities that arise, to help also to use oil and gas to create the wealth that will then make it easier to transition to renewable energy. To use the oil and gas services sector to create the ability to have the kind of technology that is required. For example, if you do a lot of pipes, which the oil and gas sector requires, you are then able to perhaps be able to produce big guns, because it's all about pipes. So I believe that is where we can contribute much here. If more oil and gas fields are discovered and they start producing.